Says I'm now live. Okay, y'all. Welcome. I'm just testing to see if the live works.
Hello?
We're just testing everything to see if the live works. Okay.
Oh, you are live. Healthcare Indifferently is live with Dr. Chika.
Yeah. Okay, let me put on my headphones. I feel like I'm going to start anyways. Okay, we are supposed to start at 7, but it's all good because y'all are coming on here. I'm cool because, like, I'm happy to talk to you guys a little bit early. Like, today is my birthday. Can y'all believe it? I can't believe it. A wild year so far. So we're going to have Dr. Chika Stacy Oriuwa. She's going to be joining us at 7. But, like, I'm here right now. I can answer some questions and stuff as people join. I'm going to try to see how we can bring on my other account. I'm trying to multitask, but if y'all have questions, I'm going to take it. So one of the things that I was really excited about today is that I got to go on CBC Radio and talk about healthcaring differently, and really why I think this is important. And ultimately for me, it's because I believe in you folks, right? Like, I believe in diversity. I believe in young people. I believe in thinking outside of the box, and how that's like a really good thing for medicine, really, like creative thinking and doing things differently. So I'm kind of excited about that. So that was cool being on CBC Radio today. Okay, folks are still joining. There's only 2 people on, but I'm just gonna stay on because, to be honest, the way this like Instagram has been like, just it's been haunted. Okay, like this Instagram account has been haunted, and I don't want to like log off so that I lose you folks. So I'm just gonna stay on until Dr. Chika Stacy Oriuwa joins us. Excuse me. And okay. So yeah, that's about it. I'm just like waiting for 7 o'clock to get here. It's 6:56, and right. Okay. So I also want you guys to follow us. So I'm gonna put in, please follow us for more, because I'm doing these every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, I'm not even playing. It's going to be healthcaring differently, and I'll just be answering your questions. Okay. So we have a few people who've joined. And I'm still trying to find my other password. And I'm hoping we're able to answer your questions. Dr. Chika has told me that she has like a hard stop at 7:30. So last week we went overtime. This week, Chika's not playing. We cannot go overtime, okay? So yeah, hopefully you can go on my account and log in for a sec. So yeah, hopefully we can get her on. I think she said she was going to try to come on at 6:57 or a little bit around that time. So maybe we can get her a few minutes early. Just to see if we can get a few extra minutes with her, because she cannot stay overtime. Okay, welcome. We have a few people, a few early birds. Thank you for joining. Yeah, that should be it. Not working? Okay. Okay. Will be. Yeah. Okay. So she should be joining in a few minutes. But again, you guys can ask me any questions. Like I do lots of different work. I do clinical work. I do research work. I do community health work. Today, for instance, so I did CBC radio in the morning. Then in the afternoon, I gave 2 talks on Black health, around anti-Black racism and health in government. So one was in English, one was, in French, and then and then I came here, and tomorrow I'm going to be doing CBC radio in French. So, oh, okay, Chika is here. She's trying to join. Let me see if I can request her. Oh, there she is. Oh, I think I lost her. Okay, let me see if I can add her. I'll try again. Oh, it says she's joined. There we go. I was like, it says you joined, but I don't see
I
you.
know.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Chika Stacy Oriuwa in the house. Welcome, welcome,
Hi.
welcome.
Hello, hello. Happy birthday for like the
Thank
third time.
you. Yes. I logged in early because we were having like, honestly, like I was saying, this Instagram has been like haunted sometimes. Like it just misbehaves.
I
And
hear you.
so I joined a few minutes early, but I didn't tell people it was my birthday. But yes, today is my
Oh.
birthday. And yeah, I'm really excited to have you here.
Oh,
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like things in the proper order, right? Like I know
okay.
you have a hard stop at 7:30, but
Hmm.
we're going to try to like do just, formal things. So
Okay.
let me kind of start all over again and just say, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. O. And this is Health Caring Differently, where we have IG Lives every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, please, join our newsletter. So the first newsletter will be going out in March, which will have information on diversity pathway programs, scholarships, volunteer opportunities, and research opportunities, particularly for students who are diverse and from underrepresented groups. I am really excited to introduce Dr. Chika Stacy Oriuwa, who's also my cousin in the African definition of cousin.
Yes.
Who's also my cousin. Our families are very close. And she is, so she's a graduate from the medical school at the University of Toronto. She was the valedictorian of her graduation year, and she's a medical resident in psychiatry. She also does she also has many other hats that she wears as a professional spoken word poet, public speaker, writer, and advocate for racialized and marginalized communities. She was recognized as one of Best Health Magazine's 2020 Women of the Year and Time Magazine's 2021 Next Generation Leaders. I feel like you're this generation and next generation, you're all the generations. And she
Thank
has a
you.
Barbie doll that was made in her image. So it's really cool to have you here,
Oh, thank
Chika.
you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this movement and to obviously be in your presence is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. And yes, definitely. I love that you are calling it a movement because this is where I want us.
Hmm.
I mean, you've been kind of mentoring out loud, putting yourself out there
Hmm.
this entire time. But so many of our colleagues who are diverse and doing really cool creative work are quite social media shy, right? And
Yeah.
then folks don't actually get to like young folks don't actually get to know about their cool work. You're
Yeah.
different because quite a few people do know about you, but they
Hmm.
haven't really been hearing from you in the last, couple of years since the pandemic. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't know that you're a mommy and you have two
Yes.
kids,
I got
right?
two. I
Two
got two.
kids,
Yep.
yes, doing residency.
Yep.
But we do know you as an advocate. So I want to kind of start with a few questions, and then we'll take questions from the audience.
Mhm.
So first, let's start with what advice, because more recently went through the medical pathway and you were
Hmm.
very vocal about your experience, but what
Hmm.
advice do you have for students that are thinking about medical school? Like
Hmm.
you remember what that experience was like for you when you were thinking about the whole
Yes.
path. What advice do you have on that based on your lived experience?
So I would definitely say that it would be most important to find someone who is already within the medical career who can truly be a mentor. And I know you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, is this idea of mentorship and sponsorship and kind of the difference between the two, but really being able to find someone who can demystify the path to medicine, because there is so much inherited social knowledge within other communities as to how to get into medical school that honestly there are some people who right out the gate from like elementary school, high school, they're already preparing their CVs and their resumes to situate themselves to be very successful in medical school or to get into medical school, and
Yeah.
so and thereafter, quite honestly. And so to
Yes.
be able to right, and so to be able to find someone who can truly demystify that path for them, in the form of a mentor, either professionally or informally, that would be, I would say, my top piece of advice to anyone who's interested in pursuing medicine.
Right. And there's different ways to do that. Like,
Hmm.
certainly I recommend to folks, like, there's ways to find mentors even through the pathway programs, and that's what our newsletter
Hmm.
will be providing information about. So at
Hmm.
University of Toronto and a few universities, there are things like the summer mentorship program that's for
Hmm.
high school students to get exposed and
Hmm.
meet doctors there. So that's where you don't want to be shy. You want to
Yeah.
go up to somebody
Hmm.
and say, can you support me? But then there's programs like the community of support, because
Yes.
I find even though it's good to have a mentor,
Mm.
now there's so many amazing students coming up.
Yeah.
It's always good to kind of think of it like it takes a village to do it. And these
Yes.
programs out there are like a whole village of mentorship with regards
Yes.
to physicians.
A-
But you
Absolutely.
definitely need to have access to doctors to know how to be a
Yes.
doctor. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I agree.
And for you, like, did you do a lot of volunteer work or
Mhm.
research work, or how did you approach it when you did, find a mentor or mentors when you were pre-medical?
So, interestingly enough, I would say that I've kind of been an untraditional physician as well as an untraditional medical student and pre-med
Mhm.
student, because I really did not do a lot of research before medical school. And that's primarily because I didn't recognize how significant and important research was, to applying to medical school, because I truly lived that story of not necessarily having a mentor within the medical community who told me like research is really important. And so I
Right.
really didn't do a lot of research. I did like my undergrad thesis. And I
Mhm.
did like research projects within, that were mandatory for me to graduate. But outside of that, I didn't really have any extracurricular research that I did. So what I did do instead was a lot of the creative stuff that I continue to do. And so I
Yeah.
did a lot of, slam poetry, but I also coached a lot of poetry within the local high school in Hamilton. And so
Hmm.
I did a lot of like, I did what fed my soul and what really spoke to me as a human. And that was my way of giving back to the community in a meaningful way. And when I wrote my essays for the University of Toronto for medical school, I wrote about poetry in about half of the essays, because that was me being my authentic
Yeah.
self as a pre-med student, was, why it was that I felt that being a poet, being a creative really lent itself to medicine. And so I think honestly, when people are, often ask me like, how do you get into medical school? What extracurriculars do you have to do? What activities do you have to do? I generally always say like, I encourage you to do what feeds your soul, what truly is your passion, because ultimately your passion and how it is that you give back to the world, that will reflect authentically in your medical school application. It'll also help you stand out in certain ways, because there are certain, I guess, like, you know prescribed things that people often do that might be a little homogenous and with respect to the broader application,
Yeah.
spectrum. And so really trying to do what speaks to your individuality, and ultimately that'll shine through.
Yes, no, I agree. I think, I've also been involved in looking at medical school applications, and there are
Mhm.
situations where people talk about their experience coaching soccer for younger kids, when
Mhm.
they did soccer camp or their
Yeah.
experience, even working in like it could be a fast food restaurant or something, but
Right.
they're able to take that experience and really creatively show how
Mm.
that's going to make them a better doctor, right?
Yeah.
A caring doctor, an empathetic doctor. So I
Exactly.
absolutely
Mm.
agree. I think at the end of the day, you still
Mm.
need that mentor or somebody to tell you how to kind of weave that
Yes.
story through in a way that will resonate with
Yes.
the evaluators.
Hmm.
But absolutely, I agree. And I think where there is an opportunity for research, so
Mm.
I had done, I guess most of my research was after medical school, but
Hmm.
I've always done research in the Black community, right? So for me,
Hmm.
it's been like Black community research spoke to me.
Hmm.
So if you can find research
Mm.
that also speaks to your soul, right?
Yes.
Then that can be a good combination as well. But I agree with you. Being your authentic self,
Mm.
it is key, right? Because as you
Hmm.
said, that's your like whatever your superpower is, right? Your
Yes.
spoken word, your you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that kind of vibe.
Yes. Hmm.
Now, you do have another superpower aside from slam poetry,
Yeah.
but it is related. It's your voice, your advocacy,
Hmm.
right? So, do you want
Hmm.
to talk a little bit about your path around advocacy
Mm.
and any advice that you have for students coming up? Because I've done advocacy, it's a double edged sword, right? Like
Yes.
it can benefit others, but sometimes it can be a challenge for us in our own lives. So,
Yeah.
what were your experiences with regards to advocacy,
Yeah.
and yeah, any advice that you have for those coming up?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and even as we're talking, I kind of this line just came into my head. It almost sounds a little bit like a line from a poem I might write,
Okay.
but it was almost this experience of invincibility being in medical school, and at that time being the only Black individual in my class, and truly feeling invincible in many ways, that catapulted me into a position of hypervisibility.
Mm,
And that's where, I spoke up about my experiences of being the only Black medical student, and I did so in support of the Black Student Application Program, of which you are, were an incredible champion of, and very, very pivotal in its involvement. And so that experience led to this hyper visibility where I was doing work in the media, and then it, triggered other opportunities for me to do public speaking and my writing. And so that experience was incredibly important and continues to be, because it is still an active part of my career, and at this current time is
mhm.
kind of the main part of my career, which is public speaking and advocacy work, and speaking up really about the importance of diversity and equity in all industries and sectors. And so when it comes to health caring differently, I'm doing it in such a different way, because now I'm really operating mostly outside of medicine when it comes to my advocacy work for equity and organizational wellness and inclusivity. But at that time in medical school, it was certainly really challenging to wear that role or wear that hat as an advocate while you're also a medical student,
Mm,
because with that hyper visibility comes with putting yourself in the public eye, which can obviously lend itself to a lot of critique, and can also harbors a certain amount of professional risk as well when you're
yeah.
audacious and outspoken as a medical student. And you and I had many, many, many conversations about
Yes, we did.
the inherent risk of being so vocal as a medical student. So when it comes to that double-edged sword, I mean, that's it right there, right? Like, you take that chance, and I would say, fortunately for me, retrospectively, I'm very glad that I took that opportunity to use my voice in that way.
Yeah.
But the other edge of that sword has been very sharp, has cut
Mm,
me a few times, that's for sure, and has, led to some really, really challenging moments. And so I would say my advice for anyone who is interested in pursuing a path similar to what I pursue, or to what you are currently doing, as well as what you have pursued historically, is to be able to kind of, sounding a little bit robotic again, but going back to finding those mentors who can build that village, that community around you to safeguard you around that time. So I know that for me, my village consisted of you and Dr. Lisa Robinson and Pierre Bryden and Ike Okafor, and really all of my homies at
yeah.
UT Med, within the faculty, all my homies, and you guys literally like enveloped me at that time. And I know that I knew at that time, and I continue to know that you guys advocated for me in rooms and spaces that I could not access. And that is one of the most important things, that one of the things I'm most grateful for. And that is also why I would encourage individuals who are interested in doing that kind of advocacy work to ensure that you have mentors and sponsors who are able to not only protect you when you're around, but also protect you when you're not around, because that was a game changer for me.
Yeah, and I mean, with a double-edged sword, one of the things you didn't say, but I'm gonna just talk the things, is racism, right? Like, so
Yeah.
when you are, we're talking about healthcaring differently. So we are
Yeah.
people who look different. We
Mm.
are different. We approach things differently. We
Yeah.
do get attacked just based on our identities, and sometimes even
Yeah.
just being a woman or the intersectionality of
Mm-hmm.
being a Black woman.
Yeah.
And I think that piece, so one thing I'm going to challenge you on, you say you're not really health caring differently because you're going into spaces and talking about well-being in the workplace.
Oh
But
no,
you know, I'm a public health doctor.
I am
Okay.
healthcaring differently.
Okay, good,
I
good.
am.
Because I'm
Yes,
like, that
yes, a
is
hundred
health
percent.
caring differently.
No,
Okay, okay.
it is. So
Okay.
I might have misspoke, but I absolutely think that I am applying my medical degree in a way that I never thought I would apply it. And I talk about
Perfect.
mental health all the time with these organizations. The vast majority of stuff that I talk about is the neurobiology of burnout. And I love to talk about how to keep yourself well and how that intersects with advocacy. And so I love wearing my psychiatry resident hat as
Perfect.
often as possible and talking shop and talking science. And so absolutely health caring very, very differently.
I love it because yeah,
Yeah.
because you know, like I said, I'm public health, so we talk about
Yes.
the social determinants of health. It's the factors where you work, where you study, where you worship, where you play, how your social environment kind of treats you, and how you're
Mm-hmm.
interacting in that has a
Mm-hmm.
huge impact on your health. By the time
Mm-hmm.
you get to the hospital for healthcare, you're usually already sick.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the work that you're doing, that is prevention, and yes, it is
Yes.
using your psychiatry, and that is extremely powerful.
Yes.
Um, and I like what you said about making sure you have mentors. One of the things that I say when
Mm-hmm.
I also go into these spaces is talk about don't go alone if you're going to do advocacy work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You need to do it like if you're going to do it solo or in solidarity, choose
Mm.
solidarity. Make sure
Yes.
you're either going with a whole group, like a student group or an organization or a coalition, or that you have people, like you said,
Mm.
mentors, advisors, allies, because Pierre Brighton, she's, you know, was a great ally
Mm-hmm.
to be able to lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
The barriers that we face, you know, they were created by one person in one night.
Mm.
So to take down a barrier or advocate for something, it's not usually going to be done by one person
Mm-hmm.
in one night either,
Yeah.
right? It's got to be done with people who can hold you up, you know.
Yes.
So I'm glad that
Absolutely.
you spoke to that, but it is a tricky thing to decide whether or not to kind of, you know, get through residency and do more advocacy later on, or to
Mm.
advocate while you're still a trainee.
Yes.
Um, and, you know, I think it's amazing how it, you know, worked out for you. And I think
Mm.
you're a great example for others because
Thank
there's
you.
also a lot of research to show if you just keep quiet and keep it all inside, the body keeps score. And then you
Yes.
can actually get quite sick, right? Physically
Yes.
or mental health
Yep.
wise. But
Yes.
so how do you think your lived experience, right? Like, um, you know, growing up. So, you know, today I was talking about how 1 in 5 medical students, their parent is a doctor,
Mm.
right? That's why we're doing this actually, because we're
Mm.
going to be the aunties, right? Like
Yes.
we're bringing it to the table because if you don't have a
Yes.
parent who's a doctor, but what about your
Mm.
lived experience? How do you think that has impacted like your medical training? Like
Mm.
again, you didn't kind of grow up in a household where
Mm.
both of your parents were doctors.
Yeah.
So how has your personal identity? We talked a bit about that authenticity.
Mm.
How has that kind of framed your medical training, even your decision to do psychiatry, like your
Mm.
path overall?
So it's really interesting because my decision to do psychiatry was truly a last minute decision in the grand scheme of medical training. Like it was my
Mm-hmm.
very last rotation in clerkship, and then I was like, I think this is it for me. And then I switched over my electives, and it was a kind of a mad dash. But that being said, looking back, I can't believe that I really entertain the idea of much else, because when it comes to the work that I feel like I've been doing as an African daughter, which is breaking generational curses and like
I love
gathering
it.
the mandem to the table, like, okay, guys, like, come around, come around, come around. Like, this is, corralling the people and being like, this work, this trauma that is
Mm.
deeply enmeshed within this community, especially amongst the African aunties. And I talk a lot about the African aunties
Yeah.
in my memoir, where I said, like, we have got to break the shackles. Like, the shackles have got to be broken at some point. And
Hmm.
knowing that, like, especially that has been really important work for me to do and have always done as a child. So growing up as a Nigerian daughter to Nigerian immigrants, like Nigerian Canadian daughter to Nigerian immigrants, and just instinctively, inherently, even before I had the language, recognizing that there were certain things within the culture, within the community, that I just did not align with. Like, so much of the crushing vestiges of African patriarchy and how that
Mm.
influenced and affected the mental health, specifically of African mothers, African women, and how that
Hmm.
was passed on generationally to their children. And then seeing how that manifested in chronic health issues amongst the African diaspora, and then just looking at the aunties in my community, looking at, just the Black individuals within my community, and seeing that, there's so much trauma there,
Yes.
and wanting so desperately to help the women around me that I loved so much, but
Hmm.
recognizing that the vast majority of their physical ailments were deeply rooted in psychological trauma, and that, like, you can try and throw sleeping pills at something, and you can try
Mm.
and, like, find the right medication or the right concoction of this and that, but then recognizing that unless there are certain things that are dealt with from through a trauma focused lens,
Yeah.
certain things are going to be recurrent and chronic no matter what medications you throw at that. And so I feel like ultimately my path within psychiatry now is so influenced by my passion for recognizing that trauma, whether that's generational or whether that is, personal lived experience trauma,
Yes.
and how that intersects with the actual biology of our body. Like, we mentioned before, the body keeps the score, and it most certainly does in so many different ways. And so, how lived experiences and social influences, how that impacts not only one's psyche, but one's physical makeup and their constitution, that is what I find the most fascinating about psychiatry. And so, that's my long winded answer as to how my upbringing has influenced my path as a doctor.
No, that I love that answer, and I'm like, because I know we only have 10 minutes left with you. But you said you're going swimming. Is that what you said?
Yes, that's speaking of
Good. No,
breaking.
because I'm taking swimming lessons. I was like, did she
Are
say
you?
swimming? Because I'm taking swimming lessons. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh
Okay,
my gosh.
but we'll talk
Okay, that
offline.
is,
Black women
yeah,
need to be swimming.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But you said so many things around the trauma that I would love to unpack. I'm gonna have to like have you back another time. We're gonna have to
I
do
would
a deeper
love
dive or an
that.
unplugged version
Yes.
because what I
Mhm.
reflect on and struggle with is how does one tease apart what parts of the trauma of the patriarchy from an African
Mm,
standpoint is due
mhm,
to colonization
mm,
and like
mm,
the indoctrination of a
mm.
European understanding of patriarchy and the role of the woman, in particular
Yeah.
ownership of a woman that
Yeah.
didn't exist
Before
in
colonialism. Yeah.
before colonialism, and then how that
Yes.
got cooked and baked into the African
I
identity,
know.
compounded with traditional African patriarchy. So
Yeah.
it's almost like a double
Yeah.
messy
Yeah.
patriarchy, right?
It's all in there.
But we'll have to
Yeah.
talk about it another time.
Yeah.
What I want to jump on is
Mhm.
two things because I want folks to ask you questions,
Okay.
right? So those of you, because Chika is only available for 8 more minutes. She has a hard stop at 7:30. So please
Yes.
start putting in your questions. But I'm getting
Mhm.
you mentioned your memoir. So let us. How do
Yes.
people find out about your memoir? How do people hear more about this book that you have written?
Oh, so this book, my book entitled Unlike the Rest, A Doctor's Story, subline is still needing to be tweaked a little bit.
Hey,
But
okay.
this memoir, I have been working on it for the last 5 years. It's going to be published on October 1st, which is Nigerian Independence Day. So I'm
Hey,
very, very excited. That was an intentional date. So I'm
love
really,
it.
really happy with that. And yes, so my memoir is actually available for pre-order right now. And if you just go on Google and you type in Chika Stacy Oriuwa, Unlike the Rest, it is available at your local bookstore. You can get it online on Amazon. There's like so many different opportunities to purchase it and pre-order it, and it means the world to me for those of you who pre-order it. But yeah, there's it officially, I guess, like the actual reveal of like the cover page and all that stuff like that is pending. That is coming very, very soon, but I am allowed to officially, I've been given the green light to mention that
Love
my
it.
memoir is coming out. Yeah.
Unlike the rest. Beautiful. So everybody, please do check it out. So there's those watching the live now, and then there's people who's going to watch this after, and then we're going to like cross post. But Chika Stacy Oriuwa, Unlike the Rest. Okay, so let me see. Are there any questions? We've got lots of people who have joined. I'm just wondering if folks have any questions. You know, I could talk, but I want to give people I want to give people an opportunity to ask any questions. We at the dinner table, we will spill the tea.
Yes.
We will bring the biscuits.
We will shake the tables.
Hey,
the tables will be shaking.
Right?
The tables will be shaking.
They will be shaking.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if folks have any questions. Last week we had quite a bit. But I know sometimes people are, you know, like intimidated and that kind of thing.
Oh, no.
Until we get questions, there's
Don't
one
be.
more that I have for you. Because I know people do, you know, they're curious about this, about having kids during residency, right?
Yes.
So, because even when I speak to people right now in medicine, most people know that you have one kid. They don't know that you have two children, right? As a resident.
The way that I snuck that second one in there, like I really bamboozled my residency program because they're 18 months apart. So I was on mat leave already when I was like, oh, I'm gonna need to extend this mat leave a little bit longer. So, but yeah, so it has been an interesting journey because I was a year and a half into medical school. So I was in my PGY2 year when I had my son in December of 2021. And then I went back to residency for 2 months when I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter. And then I came back on mat leave. And so certainly I'm sure my like residency cohort is like, where is she? Like, what is she doing? But it's been very interesting. And like, it's, you know, there's certainly a part of me in full transparency. Like I'm terrified to go back because you know, to have to go back with two toddlers, two babies, like that's going to be a hard thing to juggle. But from what I've heard from all of the other resident moms who have done it, they feel that when they go back that they are a stronger physician, that they, you know, are more empathic, that they are able to pull on different skills and integrate that into their practice of medicine. And so I'm excited. I'm terrified, I won't lie, but I'm excited to go back to residency.
It's normal to be terrified, but it's okay. You'll be fine.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
No, you're a brilliant Black woman. You will be fine. And, you know, family will surround you. Support is important. Let's not do that whole strong Black woman, like, you'll be fine. Go out there and do everything, carry everything on your head. No, but with the right support. But there is a question. Okay. So KSG says, how do you put yourself out there when you're more shy? And that can be challenging, right? Because we said, you know, go out and find a mentor. So do you have any advice on how to do that if you're a little bit more shy?
I would say that using micro moments of opportunity to really flex that muscle of putting yourself out there a little bit more. So, you know, if you see someone, say, for example, you're at a conference or even like in this kind of forum, taking that opportunity to push yourself just like a little bit outside of your comfort zone, whether that's reaching, you know, asking someone for their email or asking how you can reach out to them, how you can contact them, and really flexing that muscle so that every time that you are given an opportunity where you can be a little bit more outspoken, where you can use your voice a little bit more, you have already kind of like flexed that muscle. And it's going to be uncomfortable the same way that working out is uncomfortable, but then you get stronger. It's that same concept of putting yourself out there a little bit more. It's uncomfortable, but the next time you do it, you're going to feel all the more confident in having done that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a process. You might not want to go, you know, fully out there, but also you can do things like reaching out to people online. So LinkedIn is an example. I'm on LinkedIn. Chika, you are on LinkedIn.
I am.
Dr. Aisha Lofters, who was here last week, said the same thing. Someone's asked, now we're getting all these questions. You have to go in 3 minutes. I knew this was going to happen. Okay, so how can you find mentors as someone who has not yet applied to medical school? So that's what we're saying. There's the pathway programs.
Yes,
the newsletter. We will.
Yes, it'll be all in in the newsletter.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But
Rapid
you need the
fire.
mentorship before medical school, so we're gonna get that to you,
Yes. Yes.
with the programs that exist.
Yes.
Miss Izan said, or is it better to wait until after you start to find a mentor? No,
No.
no.
No. Don't wait. Don't wait. Get it now. Find the mentor now. You can find the mentor now.
Right?
Do it
Because
now.
getting into medical school, you have to show that you understand what it takes to be a doctor. And,
Yeah.
kind of unfortunately, to get through it,
Mm.
you need to spend time with the doctor to know
Yeah.
what it takes to be a doctor.
Yeah.
But again, the amazing pathway programs that have
Hmm.
across the country for diverse students
Hmm.
create that environment for you, even if you're shy. Okay. Ooh,
Yes.
advice post interview where you are rethinking all of life. Oh,
Okay.
geez. This is by
My
Hiba.
Okay, so my advice, stay off all of the forums, those like pre-med 101, like the Reddit forums, and those things are like an anxiety think tank. Like it is terrible. And that's what I did when I was waiting to hear back from medical schools, is that I spent all of my time on these forums, and it literally made me physically unwell. So my advice to you as a physician and as a resident doctor in psychiatry is to protect your mental wellness and honestly stay away from that as much as you can, and just surround yourself with people that love you, all the positive vibes, and do other things to distract and redirect your mind away from the super anxious period between interviews and hearing back. That's my advice.
Oh, I love it. Okay. We've got like 1 minute and people are now asking the questions. Y'all. Okay. Steph FC91 says, have you ever dealt with imposter syndrome and how did you manage it? We've got 60 seconds, Chika.
Absolutely. I actually talk about this in my keynotes. I have a whole slide for it. But yes, I have dealt with imposter syndrome, especially in medical school, dealing with the intersections of being, a woman and racialized and all those things. And it compounds imposter syndrome. But number one thing that I did is get therapy. We need to completely destigmatize this idea of
Yes.
therapy within our community. I've been in therapy for forever. I will be in therapy for forever as long as it's financially, feasible. And so that's exactly what I did to confront it, and really having a safe space to unpack these difficult emotions around feeling as though I didn't belong, or that, and even extrinsically having people question whether or not I belonged in that space really worsened my imposter syndrome. But being able to have a safe space to unpack that was one of the primary things that I did to really confront it. And now I'm able to show up, bravely, boldly, and happily within medicine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Therapy is key. I think we have the same
Yeah.
therapist actually, but
Probably do. Yeah. We
we
definitely do.
do.
Yes.
Right. So yes, no, therapy is key, and you don't have to wait until you're feeling really sick. It's just like
Yeah.
it's preventive as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. So
And
if you have
maintenance.
that
It's preventative
resource.
and maintenance. Yes.
Yes, yes, it's
Yes.
preventive and maintenance, and particularly
Yes.
as Black women in medicine,
Yeah.
yes. So if you
Yes.
have that resource available to you and you can afford it, find somebody who is safe, culturally safe, anti-racist, that you can
Yes.
get that
Yes.
kind of mental health support from. But yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's
Okay.
7:30. I think people are respecting the fact that that you have to go. You have to go swim.
I gotta go swimming.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So thank you very, very much, Chika. We
Thank
know that we
you.
can get your book, so we're gonna look that up.
Yes.
And and then for students who want to kind of follow you, then your Instagram is like right here. Your Instagram is public, and
Yes.
you're on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So
Yes.
with that,
Yes.
I just thank you. I thank you all for tuning in, and I thank you
Thank
for
you.
making the time, Chika, even though I know your toddlers are running around the
Yeah.
house trying for bath time. So I
Yes.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Onye, and happy birthday. I hope
Thank
you have
you.
a fantastic evening. And thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. You made it fantastic. Thank you, girl.
Thank you.
All
Okay.
right. Good
Take
night.
care.
Bye.
Bye.